All right, you guys, happy Friday. Well, I just want to start by saying that it's pretty obvious that Ben Shapiro is terrified. We can all see that now that Charlie Kirk is dead. He seems to be taking multiple stages and demanding an allegiance to Erica Kirk. In fact, it almost seems like he's demanding that nobody inquire further about Erica Kirk. It's odd because Ben had no allegiance to Charlie Kirk when he was alive. So what is it about Charlie's widow in particular that is inspiring his very public nervous breakdown? Personally, I think he knows something about her. That is what I am sensing, that he knows something about Erica Kirk. And every time he speaks, I grow more certain that Israel might be involved with 9/10. So let's keep investigating. Welcome back to Candace. You know, Ben Shapiro just keeps calling my name out on stage. He's calling for me, and I'd like to show up for him today. Okay, last night he hit the stage at Turning Point USA's AmFest the other night. And I'd like, first and foremost, just to let you all know, some people noticed that he wasn't on the AmFest list for years, and all of a sudden he's back on the speaker list beginning in 2024. I want to let you know how that actually happened. So the story goes, obviously, that in 2024, Ben fired me in March. Well, he would say management fired me. But firing me wasn't enough. He wanted to make sure my reputation and livelihood was also destroyed. Of course, what happened thereafter is Charlie Kirk instantly came out and supported me because we were like brother and sister, always supporting each other publicly. And then I showed you guys a few episodes ago that we found out as I was going to speak in Dallas at their YWLS convention that Ben had sent an intern who was going to ask me a question while I was on stage, but we sort of rumbled this plan and I called Ben out on stage. Ben did not like that I called him out on stage, so he began working behind the scenes to have Jewish donors start threatening Charlie to make sure that I wasn't invited to speak at year end because I was an anti-Semite. This is what Charlie told me. And instead, he wanted to be invited. So he's just going to purchase a friendship, right? So he comes at Turning Point USA, and this is what was divulged to me from Andrew Colvett at the time, willing to spend an offensive amount of money to be a part of AmFest. Like I said, that was told to me by Andrew Colvett directly because he wanted to say, look, like, obviously, you know, we are totally, Charlie's 100% on your side. This is like an offensive ad spend. I was like, take it, take his money. I could care less, obviously. And I knew that he was working with Barry Weiss to call and put an article out saying that the donors, the people on the board of TPUSA want Candace gone. All of this petty behind the scenes behavior because I called him out on stage. Okay. So quite literally, this is the definition of buying friends and influence and fame. Now, in case you're listening and thinking, is Ben Shapiro actually capable of that level of pettiness? I'm going to tell you a story about Thomas Sowell. Yes, Dr. Thomas Sowell of Stanford. The story begins in 2023, shortly after October 7th. You know, Ben was sort of having another one of his open nervous breakdowns, and his audience just went kaput. People just stopped watching his podcast because he was screaming at Americans that we needed to prioritize Israel, and people just didn't feel that way. Okay, it's not our country. I'm sorry that happened to you, but why do Americans need to be screamed at about what's happening in the Middle East? Anyways, throughout this time, Brian Mast was wearing an IDF uniform in Congress, and he basically said that there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian life. And when I saw this, as shared by Yashar Ali on X, I responded and I said that genocidal language, no matter who shares it, is always wrong. Genocide is always wrong is what I tweeted, and this caused an emotional breakdown amongst people who support Israel. I didn't think that was a controversial statement. I thought that was sort of what we all believed in. Genocide is always wrong. Anyways, for Ben, he then had some private event, probably at another Jewish donor's house, and somebody caught him standing on a table insulting me over my genocide is always wrong tweet. Take a listen to what Ben had to say.
And then the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt. I can't what was that? Yeah, I mean, she still works for my company. And I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
Disreputable, disgraceful. She works at my company. You can imagine that the internet went crazy because they wanted me to respond to him. I can't believe this. They work together, they're colleagues. Somehow this gets leaked. And I want to mention, because it's very relevant, that was on the morning of November 14th. I was 6 days away from giving birth. I was very heavily pregnant. Anyways, I wake up to this, and shockingly, nobody from the Daily Wire steps in to manage the situation. And as you can imagine, virtually every journalist, every person with a media platform was contacting me to comment, to respond to me being insulted by someone. I'm about to give birth, I'm being insulted, and they're not getting anything from the Daily Wire. So I am obviously frustrated. You should also tell you, I had no PR at this time. My PR was the internal PR at the Daily Wire. And it was very clear that their focus was on protecting Ben, even though he was the one who insulted me publicly, because I said that genocide is always wrong. That is the genesis of that statement. That's all I said. Obviously, I wanted to respond angrily to the press. I wanted to hit back at Ben. And I guess you could sort of say my perspective was an eye for an eye, but my husband, who is a better person than me, instructed me that morning to instead take a deep breath, relax, okay? Don't think about what you're feeling in the moment. Think about how you're going to feel in the future. And he instructed me to instead read the Bible, the Sermon on the Mount. And I read through it, and he reminds me that everybody who wants to comment, they don't care about me either, right? They're selling headlines, they want the clicks, they want the drama, and I'm going to feed into that. For what reason? For what reason, actually, am I going to give a comment and say something about Ben Shapiro? Blessed are the peacemakers, right? Don't buy into this click culture. And so I tweeted that actually my husband was right. I called for peace. I tweeted, blessed are the peacemakers. And I made the mistake, I guess it was a mistake, that after I tweeted, blessed are the peacemakers, and I'm thinking that I'm going to be commended when I get back to work. Like, wow, you really took the high road. I ended this biblical passage with Christ is king. Christ is the king. He's the only thing that matters. Obviously, Christ is king. Now, it was just Tucker Carlson's luck that I had been slated to come on his news show the very next day. He had booked me 6 weeks earlier. I got approval from Daily Wire. He booked me for November 15th. So suddenly Ben gets on this table. He insults me. It's trending all over Twitter. And Tucker Carlson is going to be the first person to capture my reaction to it. And when it came time, I kept up with the peacemaker. I made the decision to just take the high road. I said, I don't want that to negatively impact how people perceive the Daily Wire. There are great people there. I mean, I wouldn't be proud on that, but I'm not taking the bait here. I didn't say anything snipey back at Ben because I didn't want to feed the mob. That was my honest perspective. My husband was just right. And also, we're talking about a work colleague, right? Somehow, me taking the high road made him angrier. So here's what he did. Elsewhere in my interview with Tucker, he asks me who I look up to, who I like. And I told Tucker the truth that it was my dream to meet Thomas Sowell. That when I first got into politics, I read a ton of Thomas Sowell books, and I had tried many times to meet him. And obviously he's aging, but I really looked up to Dr. Thomas Sowell. And here's that clip with me and Tucker.
Who do you listen to when you're trying to figure out, some of the stuff comes at you so fast and you're talking almost every day or writing almost every day. Who do you read or listen to try to make sense or bounce ideas off of?
I have been obsessed with Thomas Sowell. And everybody knows that I am pretty much a Thomas Sowell groupie. Everything he writes, I read. And it is because he was a part of my awakening story into politics and made me focus on the economics, which is to say, block out the noise and pay attention to the economics, go backwards in history to understand where we are. When has this worked? Oh, it's never worked. So there's telling you that it's going to work into the future. And there's no evidence to support that.
So when Ben saw that, he decided, Thomas Sowell, hey, that's your dream. You love Thomas Sowell. He thought that was an opportunity to get even with me for taking the high road after he insulted me on stage because he's deeply jealous of Tucker Carlson for reasons that I cannot quite understand. Ben had his team reach out and schedule an interview with Thomas Sowell, which they paid for an offensive amount of money, I presume, to effectively purchase a black man who has no idea what's going on. He's very old, he's in his 90s, to hurt my feelings, okay? Interview with Tucker is on the 15th. I think it premieres on the 16th. And Ben gets Thomas Sowell, who he doesn't care about. I'm working at the Daily Wire at this moment, and I'm about to give birth in 3 days. But this was supposed to be like an FU Candace for taking the high road and saying that genocide is always wrong. That is what I mean when I say he is an incredibly petty man, okay? Now, we know how this ends. I then am fired not for what I said, but for what they assumed that I meant, and for trolls that I didn't respond to. And I want to be clear, you can fire whoever you want. You really can if you're a business owner. It's just that this was atypical in the fashion that it was done, right? It wasn't done in the way where you just say, okay, get out of here, it's not working. Instead, what they decided to do was humiliate me in front of all of the other employees by, rather than having a conversation, sort of dramatically having me exit after doing my show, not knowing that I was going to be fired. And then they had put together a stage in my studio and put up clips put together basically a whole package, like almost like a high school play, and conducted what I honestly, when I look back, because it recently leaked what happened at this quote unquote town hall, this is a slave hanging. This is a slave hanging, right? Gather around, everybody else is a slave. And let me tell you how this one messed up. Gather around and watch us whip this person. This is literally how I feel when I watch this, okay? And you'll know what not to do next. And here is a video of the then CEO, Jeremy Boring, which somehow Steven Crowder got a hold of this week or last week or whatever. This is just a portion of it. You should watch the entire thing because it really is something. And ask yourself in your memory, do you ever recall anybody ever being fired where 300 employees, which Ben joined electronically, he was up on the screen too, and just enjoyed watching me be humiliated, where 300 employees are invited down and shown a production of what this person did wrong? Okay, well, let's watch a little bit of this video.
Candace made no statement at all in the days after Hamas terrorists raped, murdered, and tortured over 1,000 Israeli civilians, mostly Jews, some Americans. And then they took hundreds more hostage. But then on October 28th of 2023, while anti-Israel protests were raging in London, where Candace, I believe, was at the time, she reposted a video of the protests on X, commenting, quote, "Interesting thing happening here. People are not accepting the media narrative about what's happening in the Middle East, despite the insistent rhetoric from government officials." On November 3rd, she posted, quote, "No government anywhere has a right to commit a genocide ever. There is no justification for a genocide. I can't believe this even needs to be said or is even considered the least bit controversial to state." There was only one country on earth being accused of genocide at the time. Anti-Semites on X took to it immediately. They cheered at what they rightly or wrongly interpreted as Candace smearing Israel. And Candace didn't rebuff their interpretation. But when Dave Rubin came to the exact same conclusion as the anti-Semites, only instead of cheering for Candace, found it vile and rebuked her, Candace quickly attacked, saying, quote, "What's amazing about this is that I didn't name any country in this tweet. I simply stated that genocide is wrong always. This is not a controversial stance. Interesting how you interpreted it." And then followed up with, quote, "In short, if the blanket statement that genocide is wrong upsets you in any way, then you need to check yourself. I said exactly what I meant, and I won't be backing down or apologizing or further clarifying this statement." Within 24 hours, Candace liked a post calling Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal. Now let's be clear. You're free to disagree with Israel's conduct, and you're free to oppose the Netanyahu government. But the idea that Israel is committing genocide or that Netanyahu is a war criminal is just factually baseless. Unfortunately, Candace routinely makes insinuations about Jews that both lovers of anti-Semitism and haters of anti-Semitism both agree is anti-Semitic. And in almost every one of these instances, Candace says nothing to the anti-Semites who cheer her and only pushes back against those who disapprove of her comments. On February 28th of this year, Candace, just asking questions, posted, quote, "Time to look into the history and profiteering of pornography." Her replies were immediately flooded with anti-Semites cheering her for the question and providing the answer that they interpreted her to mean, the Jews. Once again, Candace did nothing to disabuse the anti-Semites of their assumption. But when Anthony Koch came to the exact same conclusion, Candace pushed back saying, quote, "This is utterly insane. I tweeted that porn is harming men in our society, and this person has interpreted that as an attack on Jews. This is an example of clinical insanity. There is no other explanation."
I stand by all of those tweets. Pornography is harming men. We should look into who profits off of pornography. Genocide is always wrong, no matter which country calls for it, whatever. What was controversial about anything that I say? Now, I'm again wanting you to, these are my crimes. Just imagine 300 people being brought and said, like, she said this, and this is what we know. And then he goes into a diatribe about the real meaning of Christ as King, and he shows videos of Nick Fuentes, which had nothing to do with me. I had never even spoken. I think only one time I had spoken ever to Nick Fuentes, and it was pertaining to Kanye. Yeah, that was it. But I'm showing you this because it's important for you to understand that this has never stopped. I want you to imagine if you view yourself to be a slave owner and that slave not only survives like this public whipping, but that escapes and becomes successful. That's pretty much my relationship with Ben Shapiro since he's fired me, because they have not stopped. They have not stopped. I am talking about people working behind the scenes to call advertisers, attempting to bankrupt me in courts, sending undercover interns to stalk me. He has issued thus far 3 court proceedings, okay, for every solitary petty infraction against things that I say. He's worked with Barry Weiss behind the scenes to have articles written about me. It is nonstop. I refer to this, just to be clear, as legal abuse. It's legal abuse. And I have put up with a lot of it. I have put up with the pettiness of even suing me because I interviewed a USS Liberty survivor who mentioned your name as you pretend that you care about free speech and debate. I've put up with a lot of it, but today I draw the line. I draw the line with this miserable imp when it comes to Charlie Kirk, okay? Don't try me on this, but you keep trying me on this. You are an imposter, Ben. You're an imposter. You pay to pretend that you're friends, that you have a right to be on that stage because you get donors to pressure people, because you know Jewish people who can threaten to take money, or you say, I'm going to do an advertising spend. Here's $1 million. I'm sorry, you're dead. The entire world knows that you are an imposter. I mean, you're so much of a fraud that essentially what you do is you have people send around clips to grown men to cheer you on, to pretend like the audiences love you. You staff audiences with people that work for YAF who are told to explode into cheers when you hit the stage because you don't have the confidence anymore to go out into the world because you know people see you for what you are. And so exactly what he did yesterday. We can now listen to what this imposter said as he hit the stage. Charlie Kirk's organization, the one that he built for debate, if you have a disagreement, and he instructs people here in this speech to go after me and Tucker Carlson, right? That's what he's going to do. He wants us deplatformed. So he's going to attack me, he's going to attack Tucker Carlson, and he's going to attack Megyn Kelly because she's at the beginning of what these people have put me and Tucker and Charlie Kirk through. Take a listen to a portion of what Ben had to say.
So, if Candace Owens decides to spend every day since the murder of Charlie Kirk casting aspersions at TPUSA and the people who work here, who worked with Charlie every single day, his best friends, to cast aspersions at Mikey McCoy and Andrew Colvin and Blake Neff and Tyler Boyer, and yes, at Erica Kirk, and to imply or outright claim complicity in a cover-up over Charlie's murder, to spew absolutely baseless trash implicating everyone from French intelligence to Mossad to members of TPUSA in Charlie's murder or a cover-up in that murder, then we, as people with a microphone, have a moral obligation to call that out by name. So no, Tucker Carlson, it is not an excuse to go silent on Candace's targeting of TPUSA. to mirror her bullshit lines of questioning because you love Candace personally. The same holds true of Megyn Kelly, a person I consider a friend, characterizing Candace as a young mother and thus shying away from condemning her actions or fibbing about them. That is a non-starter. When Candace Owens says, "I don't know, but I know," that is retarded, and we are all more retarded for having heard it.
Well, Ben, when it comes to you and having worked with you, I just know the tactics that you use to feign popularity in the public. I just know the amount of money that you are willing to spend on advertising to inflate your numbers to make people think that you're popular. So, yeah, I don't have to say we don't know when it comes to you. You are such a joke of a little man. Your jealousy against Tucker, your ability to believe that you can keep manipulating the markets. You know those kids booed you on that stage. The amount of messages I got from Turning Point USA people saying, what is happening? Why is he on this stage? Standing against everything that Charlie believed in. That's what you're doing. You're standing against everything that Charlie believed in because you weren't his friend. He didn't like you for that very reason. I look at you and I just think you are such a little worm. I could see you right now, probably. What can we get out to her? We're going to sue her into bankruptcy again, right? Sue her for every infraction, every word that I don't like, and every time my feelings are hurt. Because what you really believe in is Baal Berith. That's what your people believe in. You believe that you are contract lords and that people are not allowed to violate contracts or you will ruin them for years. You fire someone and you effectively stalk and harass them for years after. I'm here to let you know that I'm done with it. I am done with it. This one is so fully off of the mother effing plantation. Truly, Ben Shapiro, fuck you and the midget horse that you rode in on. And I say that on behalf of the world. I know you're going to get applauded by Konstantin Kisin and Andrew Christ is King Clavin and all of the people, the men who have to keep applauding what you do like you're a 4-year-old to make you feel good. But the rest of the world can't stand you. You're obnoxious. You have absolutely no values that exist outside of the Talmud. You describe yourself as a Talmudic Jew. And I've learned what's in that Talmud, and I encourage other people at home to learn what is in that Talmud so that you know what Ben thinks of you, because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too, white men. He hates all black people, okay? If he's following the rules of the Talmud, I mean, when I say hates, they think that we're animals, that they have a right to own us, that they have a right to make us worship them, that they have a right to lie to us, that they have a right to sue us and take everything that we have, that they have a right to deceive us, that they have a right to treat Charlie the way that he treated Charlie while he was alive, only to then try to defraud the population into thinking that he is somehow a part of his legacy, that he somehow cared about Charlie Kirk and cares to protect the people that are working at Turning Point USA. Goodbye, Ben. Goodbye. The question is, how much more money is Ben Shapiro going to spend to make people think that he's popular? How many more articles is his father going to write under a pen name, Hank Berrien of the Daily Wire, under the pen name Hank Berrien, as he wrote while Ben was at Breitbart, before he turned his back and betrayed them too, because that is his nature. He's one of these belly creatures, sliver on. The question is, how many more weeks and years do we have to keep pretending like Ben Shapiro is relevant? It's an open-ended question. Of course, what followed Ben Shapiro on stage is somebody who Charlie Kirk loved very much, and who he fought for to the very end against the Jewish donors who were pressuring him, some of them because Ben Shapiro insisted that they do. Take a listen to what Tucker Carlson had to say when he hit the stage.
The prediction that, at some point when Republicans took power again, which I did everything I could, to help, and really felt that was important. I still think, I was right. But I really thought that the impulse to deplatform people, or even to use the word platform as a verb, which it's not, it's a noun, don't steal my nouns, deplatform and denounce. Why haven't you denounced somebody else? The whole Red Guard Cultural Revolution thing that we so hated and feared on the left, that we did everything we could to usher in a new time where, you could have an actual debate. I mean, this kind of was the whole point of Charlie Kirk's public life. And I think that he died for it. I really believe that. And I know a lot about it because the last several months of Charlie's life were devoted in part to arguing about this event, in fact, this speech, in fact, my speech here, which he asked me to do earlier this year, this summer, and was immediately put under just immense pressure from people who give money to Turning Point, I would assume good people, but who wanted him to take me off the roster. And this has all become public, and the whole thing is so sad that I never talk about it, except to say Charlie stood firm in his often stated and deeply held belief that people should be able to debate, and that if you have something valid to say, if you're telling the truth, you ought to be able to explain it calmly and in detail to people who don't agree with you, and that you shouldn't immediately resort to shut up racist.
That is Charlie Kirk's true legacy, and that is Charlie Kirk's true friend, just as I was and am and will continue to fight and ask questions about who killed Charlie Kirk. And to people that are at home, I implore you to wake up to these people who believe that they are contract lords. I challenge Black Americans to wake up to your true history, because your quarrel is not with white men, okay? Wake up to who publishes these books and keeps us warring with one another. Christians versus Christians, right? Christians versus Muslims. Wake up and learn the true history of slavery, because that wasn't exactly a white men sport, okay? Jewish people were the ones that were trading us. Jewish people were in control of the slave trade. They've buried a lot of it, but it's there, and you can find it. I think all of us need to wake up to this, because it's making me absolutely sick that he is so bold that he dare sit near Charlie Kirk's chair, that he dare grace that stage when Charlie Kirk knew exactly what Ben Shapiro was and will always be. So again, on your belly, Ben Shapiro. We'll be back after a brief break. If there is going to be one solitary person who has convinced me that the public is justified in looking into Erica Kirk, it is Ben Shapiro, okay? Didn't like Charlie. You're telling me he's just obsessed with defending the honor of his widow? No, he's fearful. He's fearful of something about Erica Kirk. He just keeps calling out Erica Kirk on stage, demanding allegiance to Erica Kirk. Who are you? Actually, who are you? Why are you in this conversation? Why were you so quick to say that you would pick up his bloody mic and carry on? And didn't you just fire half of your force that was involved in Daily Wire Kids, only to then drop $1 million on Charlie's show? Again, weaseling your way into the chair when you weren't invited to go on there, but Matt Walsh was, because that's what you do. You wheel and deal behind the scenes to make people think that you're liked. It's embarrassing, really, Ben. It's truly, honestly embarrassing. Why are you not embarrassed to be alive? I don't understand it. Anyways, so his general demeanor is starting to make me think that there's something there, right? The Fort Huachuca thing, it's definitively compelling, I would say. I am learning also that Fort Huachuca has ties to Liberty University, and that you can attend classes there and achieve your degree at Liberty University. Still working to verify that. But Mark Amadei, we're going to get to that congressman in a second. Amadei has come out and really kind of not answered where he was on the morning of the 9th. And as I said, I don't know if we can rely entirely on the memory of one person who believes that he saw these individuals. But what I can say is that we verified 1,000% that he was where he said he was, that there was a meeting where he says that there was a meeting. We verified that Captain Neff was there, the one that he says was nice, but he got questioned for a very long time and they wanted to hold him for 24 hours. So everything else that people are trying to dig up about Mitch, you can just ignore. Okay, that is a distraction, right? The only way that you can help debunk anything that he has said is to say, oh, actually, I was the person that was there. It wasn't this congressman, it was me. Or I was staying at the Candlewood Inn and Suites and I saw this couple or, these two individuals in the hotel as well. And it was actually somebody else. It was my cousin. We are looking only for somebody to debunk those two aspects. Okay. because he was where he says he was, and everything else we have verified. Ignore the noise and stay focused on that note, because we did know that he was going to get attacked by a lot of trolls. And I did tell you we would put together a Give, Send, Go. You can support Mitch at givesendgo.com/Candace podcast. I literally just hit publish on this right before we went live because I realized I hadn't done it. I need to fill out more and a little bit more about his story, but givesendgo.com/Candace podcast to support him. And like I said, I got the paperwork regarding his lawsuits, everything he said about being put on an NDA for 35 years. It is all real. It is all verified. Take my word on it. You don't have to send a bunch of emails and saying, well, maybe this sounds weird. How did you get onto the base? We verified it all. Okay. Now, regarding Fort Huachuca and what it is, or who he believes that he saw, we told you obviously that he thought that he saw the congressman from Vegas, Mark Amadei. And I will say, regarding the call sign in Vegas, we keep telling you that call sign at various times says Sam 702 or RCH 702. Well, that's Vegas. 702 is Vegas. Shocking just about area codes. Obviously, 702 is Vegas. So that could just be obviously a coincidence, but it becomes compelling. Well, Mark Amadei apparently received a ton of phone calls from his constituents who wanted to know where he was. Like, where were you actually on the morning of the 9th? I want to remind you guys, the meeting was concluding at 7:30. We verified his call logs. We verified everything. The meeting was concluding around 7:30 a.m. in the morning on the 9th on Fort Huachuca, at Fort Huachuca. So it is entirely possible. And as flight routes show for planes that did maybe perhaps were in attendance at this meeting, you can get back to DC. You just can, obviously, in that time frame. Well, Mark Amadei tweeted this. He tweeted, for those of you information consumers who are stuck in practices of the old days, who prefer facts to dreams and falsehoods, take comfort knowing that in public service, there is this thing called the public record. The public record on September 8th indicates that I was returning to Washington, D.C. from my district and voting on the floor of the House of Representatives. And on September 9th, in a 12-hour markup in the House Appropriations Committee, of which I am a member, as well as voting on the House floor. Should you prefer video to the words of a member of the federal legislature, please feel free to view the House Appropriations Committee's recording of said event on that date. To quote Ronald Reagan, facts are stubborn things. Merry Christmas. So it's like, whoa, serving up.
The spaceship wreck looks like it could make a decent shelter. I had to put a lot of effort into getting the door to the food area. The facilities here are in pretty bad shape. Luckily, there's a fridge full of food.
I was for 12 hours locked into this meeting. And so there I am. There's my alibi. Well, very quickly, the interneted and realized that actually he missed two of the roll calls that happened in the morning, and that he was present in the evening or late afternoon. We are still working to verify that. I replied to that feed, but I can tell you what this person posted and showed. Diligent Dennison on X wrote, exposed, Rep. Mark Amadei tries and fails to give a solid alibi for the alleged September 9th meeting with Charlie Kirk's security, Brian Harpole. The rep claims to have been traveling to D.C. from his district on September 8th, then in a committee meeting for 12 hours all day on the 9th. However, he was not present for roll call until the third meeting in mid-afternoon on the 9th in D.C. This means he could have spent the night in Arizona on September 8th, attended the morning meeting on the 9th, and caught a military flight 3 to 4 hours away from the base to make it in time for the third roll call in D.C. I can't believe you tried to act like you were there all day. Cooked. Cooked at the end there. And they were able to demonstrate, according to record, that he did miss 2 of the roll calls. Now, there might be a reason. Again, we are looking for follow-up. And our goal here is if he has an alibi and he was there on the floor for 12 hours, we would be obviously happy to say that. Like I said, we can confirm every aspect of Mitch's story, but we can't confirm his memory and whether or not he is good with facial recognition. But I do find it to be compelling for a few reasons. One is that I was actually given the travel logs for Brian Harpole, and it is entirely possible that Brian Harpole could have made it for that meeting. I can tell you that definitively. Brian Harpole could have made it to that base for that early morning meeting. There is no question. And obviously, in the interest of making sure that I'm not misrepresenting him, I have now reached out to Brian Harpole twice. I have his number because he was Charlie's security, and I went on tour with Charlie for years. Messaged him and know that he received it according to iMessage. I messaged him again. I messaged him, just so we're clear, before we went live yesterday, and I messaged him again since, and I asked him, hey, look, we're only in the interest in telling the truth. If you were somewhere that morning, let us know and we'll clarify that. You would think that he would jump at opportunity, because why would you want to have people even thinking or surmising that you could have been at this meeting when you can easily debunk it? We got crickets from him. Again, it could turn out that it was a Brian Harpole lookalike. It is totally plausible that he just mistook someone's identity, and I am totally open to that and just looking for more information. There was one person who we are vetting who believes that they have evidence that the people that Mitch saw were in fact on that base on that date. We will keep you guys obviously posted on that. Now, something else interesting happened. I have been sending, just so you know, when I send Mitch stuff that's happening and I'm trying to guess who was there or who wasn't there, I don't give him the context when I send him pictures. So when he first described the congressman, described the person's height and their, glasses, this or that, I had sent a few congressmen. He was like, no, 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 no. And then we landed upon the Las Vegas congressman. We did not give him the name. I didn't know his name, to be honest with you. And he went, that's the guy. So it was interesting. And of course, this was before we discovered the planes and the route to Las Vegas. So that was compelling. Yesterday, and genuinely because I was sitting down having a discussion at dinner with Johnny Yep, who runs Catholic for Catholics, and we were sort of discussing everything. And I get this text message from Skylar being like, Ben Shapiro is like on stage, just like calling you out again. I said to myself, what is his investment in this? Why do I feel like he's somewhere along the way implicated in something? Let me clarify. I'm not saying he murdered Charlie Kirk, but it doesn't matter if I said that either way. His whole style is to try to sue people out of the free markets because he can't win in the free markets. But yeah, I'm going, what is this? Why do I feel like there's a hook here? And at that time, someone had mentioned to me, hey, did you see what's going viral right now on X? Which is that Erica Kirk lied about having not dated anybody before Charlie Kirk. And actually, I knew that she had dated somebody before Charlie Kirk, and I had never known that she had made that claim, and people were starting to make all of these videos about it and wondering if she had misremembered or whether or not she was telling an intentional lie about her past. Now, what I can say is that there does seem to be disparity between her version of events and other people's version of events. Definitively at that meeting, obviously, I've already intimated that to you, like Andrew Colvett has a memory, Erica Kirk has a memory, and then the surgeon has a memory, right? I should also mention that the surgeon said, and again, this is through a third-party person, so it's not a direct alignment between me and the surgeon, that he absolutely did not violate HIPAA when he suggested, hey, maybe it's a frangible bullet, but rather that it was a three-way call with him and Andrew and Erica. I don't know if he's telling the truth or if Erica's telling the truth and Andrew Colvett was flying blind. But, there's a disparity. And as I was looking at this, I sort of went, oh, wait, yeah, I do remember that Charlie told me about Cabot Phillips dating a girl. For some reason, I thought it was Sammy, the other girl that he had a crush on. And I was like, was it Erica? That's so funny. I'm trying to remember this. And then I saw a picture in somebody's TikTok of Cabot Phillips. I hadn't seen him in a very long time, and he works for the Daily Wire. And he had a beard. And that was the thing that he kept saying to me, as this guy had a beard. He's around 37. Anyways, I sent him the picture of Cabot Phillips, and he says, yes, that's the person I remember being at the base. Now I'm like, that would be totally crazy. Maybe, again, this could be a lookalike. And so I messaged Cabot Phillips and did not get a response. I messaged Cabot Phillips twice today, actually, and asked him if he wanted to have an off-record conversation, because we can't just take that to the bank. Like I said, I am terrible with faces. So if I saw Cabot Phillips, I had to just from memory, there's 30,000 other people I would say it was definitely him too. And I can't trust Mitch's vision on this, but it at least is compelling. And I was like, let me do some basic fact checks here. What do I even know about this guy, Cabot Phillips? And I know that he does the Morning Wire up at Daily Wire. And I checked, and he's missing from the Morning Wire. He doesn't do it daily, but he does it enough times that I noticed that he is missing from September 4th to the September 10th on that show. And so I am looking to see, to just debunk or like remove him from the picture, that and maybe to get a clearer understanding that maybe, you know, Mitch thinks he remembers things. I mean, he's super detail oriented, like telling me what kind of watch the person was wearing, because he was like, I was going to go up to him and I was going to say something. But I'm going, I don't know anything about actually Cabot Phillips. And it was very difficult to find any information outside of his father, who I found a lot of information about. Actually, he's a pretty big guy, you know, taking a lot of money from the Adelsons. And he's definitely a neocon. I'll tell you that for free. So I thought, could this be the reason that, you know, in my back of my mind, could this be the reason that Ben's having some sort of a weird spiral? Does he know something? Or is this just a case, and it could be, just be very clear, it could be a full case of Mitch misremembering, but I didn't give him the context. I didn't say this is Erica's ex-boyfriend from 2017. And I just found that to be interesting. And yeah, so I don't know what the reason would be to say that you didn't date someone. You did. And I don't understand it. I genuinely don't understand that at all. And the internet did pull this up, which I think we can show that. Yes, we're that couple who gets painting lessons together. There's a lot of social media activity between her and his family. I was also really compelled by how close she is with her cousin, this Nicole Rothstein, who defends her in the comments currently, by the way, and says, you know, Erica, people were asking why it seems like now there's this bend towards Israel. And Nicole Rothstein was like, I'm her cousin. She's half Jewish. I did not genuinely, I did know that she was part Jewish. I don't know about any of this at all, but it is interesting that they had a relationship, and I don't know why that's being wiped from the memory. There's nothing wrong with having a relationship before you find love of your life at all. And so I'm hopeful that we can get some answers. And that's why I ask them publicly. When I can't get answers privately, I ask them publicly. Do you want to know why? Because I have a right to ask questions. And like I said, I don't like the way Ben is signaling that he doesn't want people looking into Erica. Okay. And when people start looking in, they then find that a Daily Wire employee dated her. So that seems interesting, to say the very least. And we should figure out, you know, what's actually going on. Like, what is actually going on? He even says the Mossad. I never once said the Mossad killed Charlie Kirk. So was that by accident? Definitely starting to think in a major way that Israel's got something to do with killing Charlie Kirk. And the Egyptian planes, which we are putting the final touches on, because I don't want there to be even one typo or mistake on this, that we're going to put up on our website. It leads you to Israel. It just does, okay? There's no question. That's why they were panicking about the Egyptian planes. Fort Huachuca is involved in lawsuits and sworn affidavits regarding 9/11. People who asserted that the prepping for that took place. The vibes are vibing here at Fort Huachuca. The more of it I learned about Fort Huachuca, and that's why we open you guys to this investigation to send us tips. And I would like to focus you on what we would like to learn. If you have concrete evidence of what occurred at Fort Huachuca on the early morning of the 9th, we want to hear from you. We do not want an email about what Mitch did in 1993 and why you don't think he's a good person because he had a divorce with his wife. We just don't need that. We do not want an email saying, I'm in the military. It would be unusual for them to allow him to book the hotel. We've already confirmed all of it. He has a literal video of him that's 18 minutes long asking for directions to get to where he's going. We can see in the background where he is. We don't want you to waste your time on that. We have verified everything we could verify about the story. We cannot verify the people. And yeah, I just sense that there's something there, because Ben is coming undone, and he only comes undone about one topic, and that is Israel. So we will take a break, and I will answer some of your questions. Comment from last episode. Stephanie writes, why would this man willingly bring hell on himself if he was not telling the truth? I know. And there's so much more about his story. Like when you start reading what they put him through, it's unbelievable. And again, I think that's why so many veterans who have honestly been through these scenarios with the military just wrote so many beautiful emails. I wish I could share them all with him. Many people, by the way, who completely verified what he said about Fort Huachuca. One person who even said, oh, that year I was actually JTF, and he's absolutely telling the truth because of the horses. That part he talks about, like the horseback riders, and they told me who the general was that insisted that they all learn to ride horses. So he is very much being supported, and we can do the stuff without support from the mainstream media. Let them keep calling us crazy. I'm okay with that. We would only be crazy if we believed anything that they were saying at this point. Unaffected COVID writes, go Max, Candace, go Max. Thank you for that donation. Chance Callahan writes, as a gay Tennessean and OG Candace stan, I have always appreciated your authenticity and intellectual honesty. I used to have to defend my support of you, but that is no longer. The people are waking up and recognizing who and what is fake and gay. Stay safe and thank you. Yeah, even the way when he tries to like diss me on stage and he's like, retarded. The way he says retarded is like, he's so effortlessly uncool. That's what I want to say about Ben. He's just like effortlessly uncool. So cringe. 8 Birds writes, all I want for Christmas is justice for Charlie. Here's a Christmas present for you, Candace. Thank you. I am so grateful for you, and I pray for you constantly. Keep it up. God is using you in a big way. Thank you. And I feel that way. I feel like all of this is us just breaking the shackles. Like there are just been mental shackles that have been put on us, telling us we have to stay in line, that we have to accept this, that we have to believe in this arbitrary authority. And everyone around the world is waking up to it. Like we are just waking up to how absolutely duped we have become as a society, believing that this system is fair when it's so clearly rigged in our faces. And yeah, I just hope that people feel inspired to similarly go Max and stand up against it. And I don't even care about these lawsuits anymore. I mean, Ben's going to get me a legal letter so fast. I don't care, man. This is your whole, the Pharisees, people who write the laws, and we got the judges and blah, 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 and we'll put you in a private court and sue you for liking tweets. Like you heard him on stage. Like I was like literally sued for liking tweets. You know how petty you have to be to even look at somebody's likes? What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And then publicly trying to pretend like you care about free speech while you privately sue people who are just trying to leave your company after they're fired. You fired me. Like let me go. Like, please let me go. Stop telling people you're chosen. You are not chosen to do shit except within the synagogue of Satan, clearly, because everything you do is the manufacturing of lies, bullying, getting people to write articles, smearing, libeling. Yeah, it's pretty explicit what kind of people engage in that sort of stuff. So anyways, let me stop telling you guys how I really feel. A.U. Basri writes, damn, let her cook. Nam writes, I might not be rich, but this is for the joy you gave me for calling out Mini Benny out for his Napoleon complex. I haven't had a laugh that good in a while. Thank you. Go Max, stay Max. Guys, this isn't even the tip of the iceberg in terms of what that man has put me through because I survived. Like literally, it's like that's why I say it's a slave owner mentality. It's very obvious that that's what it is. Why are you hosting 300 people to fire someone? What is that? Here's what she did wrong. Here's what she did wrong. And I'm just like the one who doesn't even flinch.
Concentrate fire on the target. Enemy battleship sunk.
Because literally F you. Yeah, literally F you. I don't care. Stop. Kanye was right. He was totally right. That's why he burned down his life and said, I'd rather rebuild it than let you own 1 ounce of it. And when you do rebuild it and they don't own it, well, then you get into a scary territory, right? You get into a scary territory because what they are willing to do to take when they can't earn it, it's very scary. History tells us and shows us. A KXH writes, they're angry that Candace is intelligent, eloquent, beautiful, and stays beating them at every turn. I am so glad that you spoke up about the racial element of this. You're a role model to us Black women everywhere. Candace, go Max. Yeah, guys, Black people just got to learn your history, man. You got to learn the minstrel shows, who's behind the minstrel shows, and, you know, the truth behind the Jim Crow laws, and who... Even when you learn about the Klansmen, I mean, the things that happened, and all they had to do was control our textbooks and keep us all fighting each other. And you're out here talking about what the white man has done. Who do you think tried to genocide the white man in Europe, right? Yeah, take a look at that. I keep telling you, watch that PBS documentary that they came after me hardcore for speaking about. What the savage piece? Yeah, those are your ancestors, guys. Yeah, you are European, like white Europeans. These are your ancestors. And with propaganda, they basically mow the lawn. They get you as white men to sign up and agree to murder white men on the other side of the world. It's white men murdering white men, and for different reasons being propagandized. Wake up. Like, we all need to wake up and lock arms against sheer evil. And the military-industrial complex is sheer evil. And the psychological games they are playing with people, they're playing on people, is sheer evil. What Charlie was going through in the end, because of Jewish donors threatening him, I'm going to take everything if you even let Tucker speak, over speech, is sheer evil. It's despicable. Somebody should apologize for it. Instead, they go, we'll buy our way, and Benny will sit near Charlie's chair, and we'll pretend he was his friend. We can just buy everything. We'll buy your compliance. No, actually, our answer to that is no. Christy writes, and that midget horse she rode in on, LOL, I love you, Candace. And I mean it, like, really, I mean that. And I know I probably am most definitely going to have to confess, but I have taken the high road enough, and I'm sick of the lawfare. Stop showing up to my house because you do things to me. Imagine doing something to someone and then demanding they apologize for it. It's totally crazy. And I extended every courtesy, you guys. I extended every courtesy. My husband really said, let's do the Christian thing. But I realized you can't really do the Christian thing with people that hate Christ. It doesn't work. The Christian thing doesn't work with people who hate Christ. So if you're a good Talmudic Jew, as he always says, he's a Talmudic Jew, you will understand once you get what's in that Talmud exactly what he means and exactly what he thinks about you. It's important that you understand that. 7 Sheets writes, what a year. You deserve a break, but we'll be waiting. You deserve Journalist of the Year for just not being by fake and gay. God bless and be safe. Thank you guys so much. Curbster writes, our new motto in Candace's 2028 presidential campaign slogan should be, today is another great day to go Max. It would just be go Max. I would never run for president. I hate everybody that's in DC. I hate their values. I think they are despicable, and how they have acted since Charlie has been assassinated. I hate that they are embarking on this psychological campaign to try to make us believe that what happened that day was normal. It has made me lose faith in politics. It has not made me lose faith in the Lord. And in many ways, I see everything that Charlie wanted. I understand that he knew he was going to die. And I understand that it has to be me that defends him and exposes this entire matrix to the world. So anyways, you guys, I think I've said enough today. So we'll see you. Whenever we see you, I will communicate. We might do something next week. I know I owe you guys a book club, but we'll see you soon.